We are worker drones. Autonomous robots helping humans mine exoplanets for our interstellar parent company, JC Jensen, in space. Yeah, we were mistreated in the name of Windex, but it's not like we revolted and killed all humans or anything. Mostly because they handled that just fine all by themselves.
Hello there. Now before anything begins, let me explain something. This is a stupid theory. Theory with plenty of evidence, sure. There's also a very stupid theory with a lot of evidence that, contradicts it. But we're gonna ignore that. But first, let me explain what these two indie projects are about to people who, don't exactly know Murder Drones or Ultrakill. Unless you don't know both, in which case, why are you here? Anyways, Murder Drones, created by Liam Vickers, is a show about drones that murder. Nah, I'm playing. The actual main plot is this. After the fall of humanity, Uzi Dorman, along with some rogue murder drones, find the mysteries of their past and stop the main villain, the Absolute Solver. Now, that was a very bare-bones explanation, but it's the best I can do without spoiling everything. Also, spoilers from this point on. Anyways, let's get to the part where I get to use breakcore background music. Let's talk about Ultrakill. Lord. Ultrakill, created by HAKITA, is a game about a war machine fueled on blood called V1 going to hell and clearing it out. For mankind is dead, hell is full, blood is fuel. Now, besides some slight similarities such as dead people, robots killing each other, fleshy abominations, excluding Sin, she's fine, and characters that have no way of carrying all these weapons, but and go off, I guess. That's about it. Their stories, which, I completely butchered Ultrakill, so it's all about gameplay, but besides that, their stories are completely different. However, I have been neglecting one major similarity, and with good reason. That similarity? Biomachinery, aka flesh inside machines. Now, biomachinery in this instance is being used more as flesh inside machines that's making the machine work, and less, machines that act like flesh or vice versa. But my point is, there is a lot of examples of biomachinery in Murder Drones itself. Some key examples being the Disassemblers drones, Tessa, Uzi, anyone infected with the Absolute Solver program, and to an extent, I guess the Absolute Solver, if you believe this is the Absolute Solver, but whatever. Point is, there's a lot of flesh inside machines in Murder Drones. Now, there's not a lot of biomachinery in Ultrakill itself. I'm not counting blood inside machines, that'd be way too easy. But there is some, don't get me wrong. Now, where can I find an example of biomachinery in Ultrakill? Not like there's just a giant example in one of the layers of the game. It's not like I could miss. Oh hey, Earthmover. Now, you may be asking yourself, but Skeleton King, isn't this thing also running on blood? And also soul fuel? And also, doesn't the terminal intro say literally nothing about biomachinery? Well, you'd be right. However, you're reading the terminal entry about the human Earthmover. Let me explain. After the final war, since all Earthmovers were kind of kaput, out of commission, they were all being used as cities and not, war machines. However, Hell itself really loved the Earthmovers, this towering mass of destruction. So, it drug one down and fixed it up. Heck, it even gave it a few upgrades with Hell energy. However, there is one key difference between the human Earthmover and Hell Earthmover. And that, my friends, are its internals. If you look inside the Earthmover in 7-4, you'll notice something very strange that's on inside any other machine. You'll notice that the walls of the inside of the Earthmover are very red. Matter of fact, the whole place is red. It's not just because of the emergency lights. Hey, editing me here. I don't know why I didn't mention the virtue statues and also the fleshy tendrils. Oh, and the human-like brain, even though humans made that. But anyways, if you couldn't already tell, these walls are clearly flat. Hell, clearly trying its best to breathe new life into the Earthmover, just kind of gave it flesh walls, said, you know what, that works. Hey, it worked. It's just inaccurate to how it was on Earth. Although I don't think it really cares about that as much as playing with the Earthmover. But you may be asking yourself, what does it have to do with Murder Drone? Sure, they're both biomachinery, but what does it have to do with anything? Well, just think for a minute. Humans obviously didn't make the Earthmover like this. It was, hell. And while they didn't mean to, it's technically humans' fault that the Absolute Solver is a thing due to improper disposal of drones. You don't already see what I'm getting at. Let me spell it out for you. What if the Absolute Solver and Hell itself are connected in some way? I'm about to say something crazy, But what if hell itself created the Absolute Solver program to torture and eventually kill all of humanity? But I'm gonna need a lot more evidence than just biomachinery. So let's do a quick run through of what hell can do and what Absolute Solver hosts can do. Are you ready? Right off the bat, the first similarity I thought of immediately was teleportation. Now you may be saying to yourself, what do you mean teleportation? Hell can't teleport. If it could, I'm pretty sure humans would have died a long time ago. Well, you're thinking of the wrong thing. You see, hell itself can't teleport, but it can teleport entities inside of it around itself. If that sounds confusing, think of it like this. Let's say that there is a swords machine in the prelude. If hell decided to be a goofy little goober, it could decide to, I don't know, teleport this swords machine into heresy. Point is, hell can teleport entities inside of it, and also, entities inside of hell can teleport using hell energy. This is seen with the first swords machine you fight literally teleporting away. Another similarity is entity creation, with hell most likely creating all the demons that are in the game, and Uzi creating this thing. I'm gonna name it Bob. Another one being able to change the environment around them, which is pretty obvious in murder drones. And for Ultrakill, look, the violence layer could not have looked like that from the start. Clearly hell had to change it some way to make it fit the final war. Another one I want to talk about is black holes. Now in murder drones this is obvious as the Absolute Solver hosts can clearly use black holes whenever they want. But for Ultrakill, look, there's only one example of black holes being spawned where it's 100% canon and not, in this non-canon realm. And that's from the Corpse King Minos. Look, explaining the Corpse King Minos would take way too long. Just know that there are parasites in his brain that are controlling him, which I don't know if that means he can now summon black holes, or if he could always do that, or what. But just know, I'm assuming that the parasites are making him spawn in black holes, because there's no way, if he could spawn in black holes normally, that he would have died to the hands of Gabriel. So, yeah, there's that. Anyways, the last two similarities I want to talk about are the ability to lock doors and maybe possession. The ability to lock doors is very key to Ultrakill's lore, as that is how humans figured out that hell was alive and not just some place. In murder drones, it's more just a thing they can do with their powers, so there's that. Now, possession in Ultrakill isn't really a thing, as hell is not able to possess any of the machines inside Ultrakill, but it's able to influence them in 7-3 to feed the blood trees. Now, I know that isn't possession outright, but I mean, it's the closest we can get without outright theorizing. But anyways, that's all the similarities I can think of, at least. If you have a few more, put them down in the comments below. Now you may be saying to yourself, sure, that's a few similarities, I guess, but that's about it. Plus, I haven't brought up the main contradiction to this theory, and that is, my friend, the timeline. Before I say anything, let me just say this. Ultrakill and Murder Drone's timelines are very loose. At the bare minimum, we know when Murder Drones at least takes place via the year, and for Ultrakill, we know when V1 wakes up, or at least when his last reboot was. But other than that, we are completely in the dark in terms of a timeline. Calculating when Murder Drones apparently takes place, and the end date of the final war, we have exactly 971 years missing. Do you know how much can happen in 971 years? That is 29 years off of 1,000 years. 1,000 years. Where did it go? What happened? I hope you know how bad 1,000 years of human history just not being explained is. If you don't, let me put it into perspective. If I took everything that has happened since World War I and took it to present day, that would only be a total of 111 years of human history. Do you know how bad 1,000 is? I hope you know I am grasping at the tiniest straws I can get to try and stretch this timeline to make it from 2114 to 3071. Let's do this. Hypothetically, at the end of the final war, since the planet was covered in so much smog, they probably had to take a hot few years to like figure everything out and get everything settled, and, you know, make peace treaties and all that. Let's say they took 30 years out of the 971. Okay, that's great. Now that everyone's together, they decide, let's build machines, specifically street cleaners, to clean the air. That's great, but here's the problem. We don't have resources. Since the final war was such a resource-heavy war, they have nothing to work with. So let's say that took them a good 200 years to get the materials needed to even start building something. And by getting materials, I do mean scrapping previous machines and using their parts, which is what the Swords Machine does. But anyways, after getting the materials needed, of course you need to design the machine and then actually build it with the parts, and then trial and error and blah blah blah. Look, let's say that takes like 40, 50 years. I'm gonna go with 40 just to be generous. So after the street cleaners do their thing, which I'm gonna say takes at least 100 years, since the entire world apparently was so covered in smog that it blocked out the sun. That's very important. Everything is cool now. It's the Great Peace. Drones are built. Machines are repurposed for other needs. Let's say this Great Peace lasts for 300 years, as Great Peaces usually do, because nothing bad happens. Now this is the very hard part. This is the Hell Expeditions. Let's say, since it was cut short, it only lasted 1 to 2 years. I'll give it 2 years, since they had a whole bunch of stuff set up, like the elevators and the machines and the prelude. Now let's say the death of humanity, at least on Earth, we'll talk about the other planets soon, follows at least a year later. That leads the uprising of machines on other planets, we'll get to it, and of course the fall of humans on those other planets as well. Now sadly, this is where I hit a roadblock, because there is no way I'm going to find out when this happens on Copper 9 and when the events of Murder Drones start taking place. As far as I'm concerned, Uzi is 20, judging by the missing posters having the ranges of 18 to 20 for the other characters, and let's assume they're all born at the same time, being in the same class. Assumptions, I know, but I don't care. I mean, hey, I can't explain what happened between the fall of Earth and then the fall of Copper 9. I don't know how long that was. I've been trying to find evidence, and the closest thing I can find is that Earth fell first, then Copper 9. So, whoop-de-doo, there's your unsolved timeline. Go nuts in the comments. But actually, I want to go back to the Final War and something I mentioned earlier. If you'll remember, I said the Final War is a very resource-heavy war. That might beg the question, how are there so many, like, high-tech robots? I mean, heck, even the machines in Ultrakill know resources are low. That's why V1 sees everything as if it was a PS1 game. He's sacrificing less resources to use less blood. Which comes to my point, how come the murder drones, or worker drones, whatever you want to say, can see an ultra high definition HD 4K, whatever, yet, you know, there's not that many resources to be able to do that? Well, for starters, the drones and murder drones don't seem to run out of fuel as much as they just kind of in a rest mode and they're perfectly fine. Another thing is they're kind of weak. Not weak as in they're not strong. Weak as in like a pin could break the little glowy whatever these things are on the murder drones. I'm pretty sure, I don't even know what, it's full of liquid. So yeah, they're pretty weak. Sort of like how V1 is with his lightweight capacity, but also being very weak, but it also makes them a little faster. The point is, the parent company clearly had enough resources to at least mass reproduce the murder drones. Not the murder drones, the worker drones. Anyways, point is, this company clearly had a lot of resources left over from the Final War. This company is, of course, JC Jensen, but how do they have so many resources if, you know, all the resources are being used in the Final War? Well, let me give you a little theory. Imagine, if you will, it's the Final War. Doesn't really matter where it takes place, just matters that it's taking place. Now, people need to drop machines onto the battlefield to fight other machines. How are they going to do this? That's right, my friend. They used drop pods. Now you may be saying, oh, well, that's great. That's how Gutterman got in the field. But why is that important? Well, it's not just Guttermen who use drop pods. Presumably sentries also use drop pods, which that would be smart. Get behind enemy lines and snipe them out. But what I don't get is, why does the main counter to the Gutterman, the Gutter Tank, use the exact same drop pod? There is no way this is a mistake. With a game like this that has such tiny little details, why does the main enemy of one machine use their own drop pod? You could argue, like my friend does, that, oh, the drop pods are reusable, but there is no way they're reusable. The lid literally flies off in a random direction at high speed. Oh, it also doesn't help that these drop pods, you know, meant to carry heavy machines, can also be used as bombs. There is no way they're reusable. So we have a problem. How come two opposing sides use the exact same drop pod, yet they're fighting each other? Well, it's actually quite simple. You see, neither of them own the drop pod. They probably bought it from some country that had enough materials to make them, and probably weren't making machines in the war. Although this would have to be in the beginning of the war. But you know who was neutral during the beginning of World War I? That's right, good old red, white, and blue America. Good on you for being neutral, for at least as long as you could in the final war. JC Jensen is 100% an American company. There is no way it is British. So I'm saying that JC Jensen made the drop pods for the final war. And this may or may not have eventually spiraled into the creation of the rocket ships. I told you I was grasping at straws. So, JC Jensen, being a big help in the war, was obviously paid, probably not in money, but probably in resources to keep doing whatever they were doing. Most likely the funding of the murder drones, or worker drones. I'm gonna keep calling them murder drones from now on. Although, speaking of the murder drones, they do have a key feature about them that just doesn't make sense in this entire world. Why do they run on oil? When every single machine, whether it be small or massive, runs on at least a smidget of blood. Now, when I first started making this theory, this was my first roadblock that I had to overcome. Of course it couldn't be in the same universe. Murder drones run on oil, everything in Ultrakill runs on blood. That's just it. There's no way this could work. That's when I got to thinking, my friends. I want you to think with me. Doesn't oil and murder drones do a really good job at looking like blood? And I mean a really good job. In some scenes even looks red. Of course you could, you know, say, oh, it's just the lighting. Oh, that's just the way it looks. Oh, there are different types of oil that look like that. But no, I'm talking in certain scenes, it looks blood red. But alas, I'm proven wrong once more, as N literally says that it's oil, so I guess that case is closed. Well, clearly it's just that specific machine reacting to blood, right? It's not like there's more of it. Okay, maybe it's just the Sentinels that do this. There's clearly no examples of murder drones looking for blood. Episode 7, Mass Destruction. We get to see a flashback of what happened to Earth when the murder drones, you know, killed all of humanity. And presuming this memory wasn't tampered with, go ahead, give me an excuse for what actually happened here. But there is no way the murder drones and presumably worker drones don't run on blood. Why would we eat a human hand, let alone nom on the corpses? There's no reason besides they need blood. I'd also like to note that the murder drones are sometimes referred to as vampire drones. You know what vampires do? Suck blood. I know it could be referring to the sucking of oil, but they literally eat the people right after they kill them. You know the first thing you learn in Ultrakill? V1 literally needs to douse himself in fresh blood that has just come out of an enemy. How could I make this any more clear? Speaking of V1, how is that little goober important to any of this? You know what? I think I'm gonna make a part 2 of this video. Because, explaining V1 would take at least 30 more minutes. And I don't have that type of time. I'm on a tight schedule. That schedule being whenever I feel like it. So tune in next time as I figure out V1's place in this entire story. What the Absolute Solver has to do with it. And also, how did they achieve spaceflight? Okay, maybe not that last one. I don't get the answer to everything. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 250 this year. I know it isn't a lot, but hey, it's a lot for me. Anyway, I'm gonna be all, part 2 coming when I find enough evidence. Bye.